So thank you for attending this session. To introduce myself, I am Evelyn. I am the VP of Education at CodeHS, and I am here with Danielle. And so you'll see us in the background. We'll be monitoring the chat, monitoring the Q&A. I am so excited to introduce Caroline, who is the lead elementary computer science teacher at Peachtree City Elementary in Fayette County Schools. And she is going to be presenting on making CS click with ScratchJr and CodeHS. And I will turn things over to her so she has all the rest of this time to take us through the presentation. So Caroline, over to you. Thank you.
All right, thanks. Yeah, I am a computer science teacher in Fayette County, Georgia. I've been teaching for 35 years. At my first 6 years were third grade, and then I moved into technology. When computers started getting into schools, I started being a computer teacher. Of course, now it's computer science instead of just teaching technology. But it's my love. It's what I love to do. A few years ago, we started using CodeHS. When it was just being born, it was just starting out when they were, it wasn't inside the CodeHS platform. It was just a separate website that only had like the slides and the lesson plans. And then we had to use the emulator for ScratchJr and the Scratch website for the older kids. It was the Wild West. But we, we saw a lot of different changes over the years. They started adding in some videos. First they were just teacher facing videos where they would kind of show the teacher, okay, this is how the code works. This is, the computer science behind it kind of thing. And then we started begging, well, we want some student facing videos. Eventually it evolved into those ready to go videos where, it's got the slides and the how-tos kind of things for the students, student facing things. And then this year, it has been so exciting to have everything integrated into the CodeHS platform. They have the lessons there. We have our rostering, which is beautiful. We have the playgrounds and the integrated ScratchJr within the CodeHS platform. It is just so awesome. I absolutely love using it. And I'm so excited that I get to share this in this setting. All right, so the first thing I wanted to do was to share a couple of my favorite ScratchJr lessons. My first one is a lesson that I've used with kindergarten through second. I've used this one this year. I mainly did it with kindergarten, but it's to create an aquarium. It teaches loops, events, sequencing, those kinds of basic skills of computer science. But I'm going to pop over to my, I'm going to pop over to my website here. So I've got, this is the loops lesson from ScratchJr, and they go through, an introduction, what's a loop. They get the kids excited. They love the picture of the roller coaster. All the kids are like, oh, but, it helps them to picture, to visualize, oh, that is a loop, something that goes around. Then we've got different little videos, and then we get to make a loop with the counting and the stomping. They think that's awesome. They think, we only get to do that kind of thing in music class, but no, we get to do it in computer science too. But anyway, so we get into, doing, a repetitive action over and over again. And then we bring in, how that can be seen as a loop. And, like a numbered kind of thing. Oh, let's do it 10 times. And they're so excited. And they don't realize how long 10 is. It takes a while to get through 10 claps and stomps. But then I take them back to this page and go, okay, if we had to write out all of those 10 claps and stomps, that list would go all the way to the floor. So with computer science, we have a way, I'm going to just flip through. We have a way to make that into a loop. Oh, well, I guess it's back up here. With, putting a number on it, we just did that in one step. We talk about how loops make things easier to code because it shortens how many things we have to do. So then, it talks about how it's used in real life, making games, using robots, things that happen over and over again. And we talk about how it looks in ScratchJr, the loop block, and how the number stands for how many times it's going to loop. Now, one thing that I do that I changed, I added another, let it load a second. I added another slide just for myself because I like to pull in the other loop block into this lesson, the repeat forever block. So we talk about the repeat block, and we talk about the forever block. And so with the program, when the kids are when we're just about to start making our aquarium, I put my fish on here, and I show that I want my fish to swim back and forth. And I show, what that looks like with the repeat block, and then it stops after 4 times. And then I show what it looks like with the forever block. And we talk about, well, which one seems more like a real aquarium? And they all are like, oh, the one that's forever. And so we make our fish and our crabs and our everything, they move, they do their movement forever. And then, well, I'll tell you what we do after that in a minute. But anyway, so we've got, I don't know, this is one of my favorite lessons. We do the aquarium. They all are just so excited with it. My next favorite lesson is I use this one with kindergarten through first. It goes with their science curriculum in Georgia, but it's dealing with weather and seasons. And so I have the kids, it's obviously this also does loops. We talk about seasons, they repeat every year. We have the same seasons every year. That's a loop. Sequencing, they always come in the same order. So those are like natural ways to teach a computer science topic. But with CodeHS, with Scratch, we can get in there and let's see, that's the lesson. Obviously, there we go. We're with the sequencing. We talk about the different kinds of weather. They, on each season, that kind of stuff. And then we come into, we go into thinking about sequences like, oh, it wouldn't work if you brushed your teeth before you put on the toothpaste, that kind of thing. And we kind of relate that back to the seasons, that all the seasons always come in order. You don't have summer right after winter, although in Georgia, it kind of is like that. But anyway, so over into the program, I've already put together some of this, but we talk about the different things that happen in each season. So with kindergarten, we start out with just the fall page. We start with fall, and we talk about, oh, what do you see that happens outside in the fall? And they all are like, the leaves are falling. So we talk about the different colors of those leaves, and then we're going to draw them. So I have them create a character, but I tell them, this is not art class. We're not trying to draw little itty bitty perfect leaves. We're just going to make some representations of leaves. And that's actually part of computer science too, because it's like we're making a representation of something. So we're just going to take our thickest line, and we use some fall colors, and we make our little dashes that make our leaves. Then I ask them to drag them up to the very tippy top of a tree. They get to pick where they're going to, which tree they're going to put it in, but they just drag it up to the very top. And then we talk about, well, how are we going to get them to fall out of the tree? And so the first thing we always do, we always have to start with yellow. We have to start with an event. And I explained that with this project, you really need to start with the flag, because we want all of our seasons to progress automatically. If we use some other yellow, that won't happen. So we need to use our flag first, and then we can get into the movement blocks. So I say, okay, which direction are we having these leaves go? And they're like down. And so we pull in the down arrow. But then I point out, okay, so that starts out with just a 1. How far do we want these leaves to fall? And they're like, we want to go to the ground. So, depending on the class and the students, we either look at the grid and we count, or I just let them guess and check. They put 20, because they're always going to pick a big, huge number, because that's so exciting. And I point out, okay, so do the leaves just go down to the ground and then go back up in the tree when it loops back around? No, they don't do that. So, we guess and check, and we finally get a number that gets our leaves. When we press the flag, it gets them to the ground, and they make a pile. All right, then I have them add the snow background, the winter background. And I'm like, okay, so if the leaves were falling in fall, what's been falling here? And they're like, snow, which would be so awesome for Georgia, but we just don't get that very much. So we make the same kind of drawing for snow with blues, icy blues, grays, that kind of thing. And we drag it back up to the top. And I say, okay, let's make our snow fall exactly like the leaves did. And then they look back at their code for fall, and they see what they did. They come back to winter, and then they have to figure out, okay, I need a flag, and I need a down arrow, and I need to figure out how far. And of course, I'm walking around, kind of helping as they go. But, for kindergarten, the slideshow and then building these 2 pages, that is about as far as we get in one class period. So 45 minutes, this is pretty much as far as it gets. Then when they come back the next week, then we add spring. So you'll notice that there's a little bit of different code down here for spring. So I have them think, what falls in the spring? April showers bring May flowers. So, we make the rain. We do the rain the same way that we did the snow and the leaves. They get to pick their blue that they want to color their rain with. And so they add the rain on there first, and we make it fall. We refresh our memory on how we made the leaves fall and the snow fall. We put those on there. But then we talk about, okay, so in fall, the leaves fall on the ground, we can make a pile of leaves. The snow falls on the ground, we can make a pile of snow. But when rain falls, does the rain make a pile in the grass? And, sometimes they'll go, well, it makes a puddle. I'm like, yeah, well, what happens to that puddle later? And I'll say, oh, they'll figure it out, that it soaks into the ground. And and I always leave it open to who can find the code that will make our water, make our rain soak into the ground. And every time, somebody in that class will always find the hide block. And we'll go, okay, let's try that out. And sure enough, when the rain falls, it soaks into the ground. Now, I do all of that before I have them add the cloud, because invariably, if they add the cloud first, they're going to end up making the cloud fall instead of the rain. Because sometimes, at kindergarten, it's hard for them to see those characters on the side and remember, hey, I've got 2 characters, not just one. But anyway, so we add the cloud, and then we move to summer. Now, there's not anything I talked to them about, there's not really anything that falls. We've got the leaves, we've got the snow, we've got the rain. There's not anything that falls. So we're going to do something different on this page. So we talk about how, anything, we see lots of things happening in the summer. We see animals running around. We see people playing. We go outside to play. So I let them choose what they want to happen. They can program their character to do whatever they want it to do, as long as it starts with a flag. So then once, and I usually set a timer at this point, I set a timer. Okay, you have 3 minutes to choose a character, program it how you want it to go. Making a smaller amount of time for them to do that helps it not be a mile-long list of blues or whatever blocks, because they can get very intricate on their programs. But we want to keep that not quite so long here, because we want to show how the seasons change. So this, when my timer goes off, I'm like, okay, everybody go to red, because I've got some surprises for you. Because usually they know that red only has these 2 blocks. It has the stop and the loop block. And they are always so surprised that there are new things there, because this is the program that I use to really introduce them to multiple pages. And so this is all brand new. And we talk about, okay, so it's summer. What season comes after summer? And they're like, fall. So we find the one that has the fall picture on it, and we look and see, oh, look, they're numbered 1, 2, and 3. And look, that goes with our 1, 2, and 3 pages. So then, we have to add 1. And when we everybody press the flag, see if yours goes to fall. And sure enough, it goes to fall. And I say, okay, what happened to your leaves? They fell out of the tree. And I said, why did it do that? And, eventually they get, because the flag, when we hit the flag on the summer, it made the flag go on fall. And then, then it's just a natural progression. We do 2, hit the flag. It makes our leaves fall again. We get to winter, and so on. And so if you try to start out by adding in these turning the pages, it gets them very confused. I figured this out the first couple of times I did this lesson, that if I just wait till I get to summer before I start adding in the turning the page thing, then it's a natural progression. They've got all the pages there. They can add each one in as it's supposed to go. And so then by the time they get back down, when they get to spring and they add in summer, when they hit the flag at this point, it makes a loop. It goes, it keeps on going forever. And they're just so excited about that, because it's going by itself. But yeah, that's definitely one of my absolute favorite lessons.
Caroline, can I pause for a second? There's some questions in the chat.
Sure.
Mostly about timing. So Jennifer asked, is 45 minutes appropriate for K through 2? In your opinion, is 30 minutes too short? And Patty chimed in saying, same question for me. She has 5 to 30-minute class sessions daily.
So I'm on the exploratory rotation, which like art, music, PE, and at my school, all of our sessions are 45 minutes. So I don't have a choice on my length of time. Usually my lessons finish before that time, and then I let them choose other activities when we're finished with our lesson part, because when they're learning something new, it's just like the rest of us. They get tired. I'm tired. You're tired. When we're learning something new, 45 minutes for a kindergartner is a very long time. So yeah, that first session, when we do the slideshow and we do the fall and winter, there's very little time left and they are very tired. But getting that next week, when we do the spring and the summer, those go by pretty fast, and it doesn't take up the whole 45 minutes. So yeah, I definitely, with my 45-minute time period, I have different things that we're doing throughout that time period. I 30 minutes would probably be good. That would get a lesson done. But again, it just depends on the lesson. That loops lesson with the aquarium, that definitely can be done in a much shorter amount of time. You can make the aquarium lesson as long or as short as you want. You know, you could have one fish or two fish, or they could have all of the aquatic animals programmed, and then they could do multiple things. So, you know, you can stretch. That's the beauty of the CodeHS lessons. You can make them kind of as short or as long as you want them to be.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for highlighting that. I think, you know, we have extensions and there's definitely things that you can kind of cut out as well, in order to fit them into smaller time periods. Another question was from Patty, and she was just wondering, you know, this lesson that you're kind of taking through, is this in the ready to go lesson script, or are you, you know, taking some liberties? I think you
So,
mentioned that you add a little bit.
yeah, on both of these, I take some liberties. So like the falling, like I think the CodeHS lesson focuses more on the weather part. So let me pop down. So they have like wind blowing for fall. But it really wouldn't matter what you know, so obviously this is moving sideways. You know, the kids could program something to go sideways. It was just my own little idea to do the things that were falling, because anything that you can keep the same with kindergartners is always better. Now, if I did this same lesson with second graders, I would let them do more creative things and have things moving in different ways. But with kindergarten, I like to try to make things similar on each step and just adding tiny bits at a time.
Thank you so
Okay.
much for answering those questions.
Oh, sure. All right, let me pop back over and see where I left off. Okay. So the next thing I wanted to talk about was just some little tips and tricks that I have had as I have gone along teaching with ScratchJr over the years. I teach even down to kindergartners. I teach them this hack. You know, they like to think that they're hacking something, but it makes some repetitive actions easier. So like with this subtraction example here, they had to add 6 mushrooms or whatever. They had to add 6 of something. Well, that takes a while. So I'm going to pop over to the example, because if I was going to add a mushroom, this is the list of characters. So I would have to scroll, 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 and here's my mushroom. Well, in order for so if they had to add 6 of them, they've got to scroll down, add it, scroll down, add it. It takes time and they get bored and they get tired. So I teach them this hack. Recently, this week, I just did an apple tree kind of lesson. So it's got a tree and they have to put some apples in the tree and make some of them fall out. That's their subtraction story. So I tell them, okay, so let's go down and let's get oops, well, I just missed that. There we go. Let's get an apple, but this time we're going to click on the paintbrush and we're going to change our apple just a little bit. That's going to be the hack. So we talk about, oh, apples could be yellow, they could be green, they could be pink, but you know what? I want mine to be red. But for my hack to work, I have to use my paint bucket. So I'm going to grab my red, I'm going to click on my apple. It looks like nothing even happened. So when I click that check mark, I have my apple on my page. We'll just pretend like there's an apple tree here. But then when I click the plus, here's the magic. My apple is up here at the top and I don't have to go search for it again. And so then they can just add as many of those as they need to. So that's just a little simple little hack that I teach my kids, because it saves time, it saves aggravation, and it lets them just have that little sense of fun also. All right. Ooh, so my next tip is when students are using, when they're creating their characters, they can use the camera. And that just got added a few months ago with ScratchJr inside of CodeHS. They can use the camera to take a picture. Well, you can see by this little girl here on the left, it looks like she's looking down or has her eyes closed. She doesn't really have her eyes closed. She's actually looking down because the button to click to take a picture is down at the bottom of the screen. Well, the cameras on most everything, the cameras are at the top of the screen. So when she took her picture, it looks like she's got her eyes closed. But the little boy on the right, he had his neighbor, his elbow partner, took the picture. So you can have kid photographers. They take pictures for each other, and I like to call it photographers because then they think that's fun, that they're now a photographer. But one of the things you do have to remember is that I have this little note up here. My students, when they sign in to CodeHS, we use the QR codes. And I use Windows computers. So they have to use the camera app, the Microsoft camera app, to scan their QR code, and then it takes them right into CodeHS. Well, when you use, or at least in my experience, when you use that Microsoft app, it kind of takes over the camera. So ScratchJr, when it's in, I use Microsoft Edge, the new Edge, to for our browser. So when they try to use the camera, they can't, it just stays black. It won't work. So I just go around and I just X out of the camera app, and then it works just fine. I don't want anybody to think, oh no, the camera app doesn't work for me. It's not that. It's just that Windows grabs that camera and it won't let you use it in another application. But anyway, so you know, you can use the camera to take a picture in one of the let's see, here we go. Here, there's people, and they all have blank faces, which is a little bit disconcerting when we couldn't use the camera. The kids would kind of draw in the eyes and whatnot, and that was fine. But they do like to use the camera, and it's so easy to use. I have no idea if it's going to let me, but you know, when you edit a character and you click on the camera, you click, yeah, it's not going to let me. Because I'm using the camera for Zoom. But anyway, so, you know, it's very simple for them to click that camera, click the face, and add them. You can also just have any kind of random shape. It doesn't matter, but you can use the camera to put things in there too. And one thing I noticed was on this camera app right here, you can turn it to another camera. Now, my computers only have the one facing you, but you know, if you're on an iPad or something else, you could have it taking a picture of something else. So that would be very cool. Anyway, using the camera, I love it. The kids love it. Let me pop back over. All right. So here is something that I always do with students, like with the aquarium. So they've all got their aquariums ready. They would love for everybody to look at their stuff. You know, kindergartners through second grade, everybody likes to have people, well, most everybody likes to have people look at what they made. So one of the things that I do is the gallery walk, and like with the aquarium where everyone's works the same way. If everybody used the flag to make their fish move, then I would just say, okay, whole group, everybody walking around like we are at the aquarium. We're looking at all the fish in the whole classroom. So, you know, I just set a timer and we all look, and then we all sit down. Well, that works well when you're using the same event and when you make it full screen. Now, if I'm doing a program where the events that happen on the screen and with the things that happen are using a different event, you know, maybe some people had start on tap, maybe some used the flag, maybe some used messaging or some other kind of way to start their program, I have like my numbers, my computers are numbered. So I'll say, okay, everybody with an odd number, pop up and go and see everybody with an even number. And then we swap it around. But I always use a timer. Now, I will say that I cheat a bit, you know, when I see that they need a little bit more time or a little less time, I'll say, oh, yes, we have more time or whatever. But, you know, just using different ways to do your gallery walk, as long as you're thinking about the events that the students were using in their program, you know, that's going to determine what kind of gallery walk you do. I usually use full screen mode no matter what, because that way, as a student is walking around, they can't mess up someone else's program. If it's on full screen, then they can touch the flag or they can touch whatever the person, you know, if you're doing the one where people are still sitting at their computer, the other person doesn't really even need to touch. But you know, and then you don't absolutely have to use full screen mode. It's just that I've had some drama in my room here. So I learned my lesson, and I use that full screen as when I can. One other thing I do with Gallery Walk, I have these cards that I created. One side says check it out, and one side says working on it. So invariably there is going to be those one or two kids that are like, I'm not ready. Wait, I'm not finished. Well, I can't make the rest of the class just sit there while one or two are finishing up. So I go ahead and start the gallery walk. I let people that are ready put out their check it out cards. People that are still working on it, they put their red card up, and then I go and I grab those kids and try to get them finished up and walking. You know, I have to be careful that I'm not letting a kid just sit there because they don't want to walk around or they don't want people to see theirs. I want to encourage everybody to be proud of their work and that kind of thing. But and these cards will be included in the stuff at the end. But anyway, the kids love turning around their card and putting it up. It's very useful. Now, sometimes there are glitches. You know, this is in a browser. The ScratchJr is working in a browser, and sometimes, you know, browsers glitch out. So you can kind of see from this picture on the right how there's a little piece of code that's hanging there. It's not a piece of active code. That code is not doing anything. It's just a screen glitch there. So the best way to fix that is to either use the home button or the refresh button to refresh that screen. It'll work every time. Another glitch that sometimes happens to me is that when like the very first piece of code, when I say, okay, everybody drag down the flag or drag down the on tap, I say, okay, raise your hand if it won't let you do that, because sometimes when you pull that code down, it just disappears. And that will just freak out kindergartners or younger students. They're like, it's not right. But I just say, raise your hand, and I go and deal with that first thing so that the rest of the program goes smoothly. But that refresh button or the house works every time. One of the things that I teach when we're using the messaging code, you know, we call it messaging because that's what it is, but then that makes the kids think that we're sending an actual text or sending an actual, you know, words to the other character. And so I emphasize these blocks of code mean go. It's your turn, go. And you know, I try to model that with getting two kids to stand up. You know, I tap one and, you know, it's your turn, go. Tap one, it's your turn, go. And we kind of try to relate that back to the messaging. Just one of those little things. All right, so I thought I would walk through planning, or how I plan a lesson. inside the CodeHS platform, you can look through, there are tons of lessons in the elementary stuff, but I forgot to mention, but when we first started, basically they had a lesson for us basically 2 weeks before we were supposed to teach it. And we were on the bleeding edge there at the beginning, but now there are just tons of lessons. You can filter them by whatever kind of tool you want to use. Like I just clicked ScratchJr here, but you can, look through the different lessons that there are, but then it's like too many things. There's so many things. You got to figure out, well, which thing do I want to use? The first thing I do when I look at a lesson is I look at the end product. What is that sample program? What is that I'm trying to get my kids to do? Do I really think that they can do this? Can I do this? I look at that first, and yeah, I think they can handle it. Then I move into deciding, well, how am I going to present this? So there are 3 different ways on here that you can present a lesson. The first one is like the ready to go slides. So you have it's a slideshow, and it has all of the slides like I was showing, but it also has videos that teach the coding part of the lesson. And it shows exactly how the students are supposed to move the code to make their program work. But you control how those slides progress. You're in control. Then the teacher-led slides, those are the ones that I typically use. They're just the slideshows, just like the ones I just showed you. And then they'll have different things in there that have little GIFs, little animated GIFs that will show maybe how the code is going to work. They also, and I forgot, I'm skipped over this, but they have started adding, these are so cool. They're little Scratch Scratch, like on the season lesson. I'm going to pop back over there because this one is just so cute. They have code. Where is it? Here we go. So they have little activities. Now these activities are made in Scratch, not ScratchJr. They're finished products. The kids aren't doing the coding for these, but they're playing the game. And so with this one, they drag the pictures. You can see the pictures up here, and they drag it to the correct season. So, and there's different ones. I don't know that they have one for every single lesson, but there's a lot of them, and the kids like doing that. And it obviously, like with this one, it reinforces the science topic that we're going through, and not just the coding part. The third way that you can present a lesson is the lesson video over here in lesson resources. That is like a complete canned lesson. You could post this on your LMS, and the students could take it and do it independently because it has all the slides, all the videos, everything, absolutely for them. It does the teaching for you, kind of like a flipped classroom, and then you can help facilitate them creating their product, whatever that is. But anyway, so you got to decide what way you want to use for your lesson. And as you notice, I added things to my lessons. You can also skip things. Google Slides has a nice little feature now where you can right-click on a slide and skip it. Maybe with this lesson, I didn't feel like that my students really needed to use messaging in this lesson, so I skipped that slide. And don't feel bad, like if you're teaching a lesson and you're going along and you pop over to ScratchJr and you're demonstrating with the kids, you might not make it back to the slides. That's okay too. Just taking that lesson and making it your own and making it work for the kids and having them have a successful experience creating a program, that's what's important. So like once you pick out a lesson, you can add it to your class. Like I have this class listed. I could click add lesson. I find that events lesson that I wanted. When I click it, it becomes part of my class. Now, one thing that I really love about CodeHS is you can toggle whether they see that lesson or not. The kids, when they sign in, it takes them to their playground, which is basically a list of all of the lessons that you have assigned to them. You might not want them to see every single lesson that you have assigned, because invariably they're going to click around and go to lessons that they're not supposed to be on, or they're doing the loops lesson and they were supposed to be on the seasons lesson, whatever. So it helps to be able to toggle those on and off. I like that feature. So this is my playground. So my playground has a list of all of my classes. And this right here is what I feel is like the greatest part of CodeHS, and having this interface to help me with teaching with ScratchJr. This is awesome, because every single one of these folders, like this is from one of my kindergarten classes. When I click that, it shows me all of the same lessons that I've assigned to those students. They're also assigned to me. So when I am going through for Miss Atchison's class and I click on my loops lesson, we do that. I've got all that code on there. Well, then the next day when I do the next class, I don't have to erase all of that stuff. I've got the starter code. I've got everything ready. It's ready to go clean for that class. So that's really awesome. The other part is I have my own way of making my own code. I can click this plus and I can play around with ScratchJr or Scratch to my heart's content. Others and students can't see that at all. I mean, they can't see it anyway, but I can create and mess around with it and see what there is to do at my leisure. But basically this playground, it's just absolutely awesome. So I did mention before that you can customize the characters. Well, in regular Scratch, if you use the emulator ScratchJr, or if you use the app, every single character that you customize shows up here, and that list gets really, really long. In previous years, I mean, you had to scroll forever to get to the regular stamps, because I was scrolling in my own mind. But basically, that list would get so long. Using the playground, that character list, those customized characters are only on that particular instance of the program. So I'm going to go back one. If I clicked on one of these and I made a customized stamp, it's only going to go to this one. It doesn't carry over to any of my other programs. So that is also one of my absolute favorite parts, because I don't want to go through a mile-long list of characters to get to my regular characters. Now, something else that I have set up, I set up an emergency class, like a practice class. I mean, you could call it anything, because with the rostering for my school, we use ClassLink. If you've ever used that, it just helps kids to log in easily. Well, with the rostering with CodeHS, it talks to ClassLink, but that takes a day or two. And I tell you what, I will say one student this year, when they came new this year, they didn't have me first this year. I mean, on that same day. But every single other new student we have had at our school came to me on that first day. I was like, okay, I've got to do something, because I can't have that kid just sitting there not being able to log in, because it's hard for them. I mean, I do have the emulator still downloaded on my computer. They could participate, but it wasn't the same. because things just don't quite work the same way. So I made an emergency class with a QR, and they can immediately sign in. I assign the same lesson to them. It works perfectly, and they don't have to be embarrassed, and I can still move on with my lesson without having things be different for that student. Now, the work that's saved in that practice student doesn't carry over onto when they get their real profile, but by then they've already forgotten about it anyway. So I love being able to do this for new students. So another part of the back end of CodeHS with ScratchJr is that they have a progress section. So like this is a particular kindergarten class. These are the lessons at some point in the year that I assigned to them. And I can see the ones with the green dots. Those are the lessons that we had completed at that point. I can click on any given lesson, and I can see all of the student work for that particular lesson. So if I wanted to check to see how they were doing, if I missed them when I was walking around my classroom, oh, I want to remember what did he make, that kind of thing. I can also reset their progress. Maybe they were in the wrong lesson. I can reset it back so that it's clean, and they can start on that lesson fresh. Another aspect of the playground is that I can also toggle and look at other students' work in that playground. So if I had clicked on my Atchison's class, it's going to first show me, and it would be for me to be able to complete the lessons. But if I click on this drop down, I can choose any student's name and be able to see what they've made in any of these lessons. And I use that when I want to showcase, hey, look what Susie did. She made this, these leaves. Look at how she made her leaves. Look at how she made her rabbit jump up and down, that kind of thing. And they love to see their own work on my big screen. It's very fun. So that's actually, I probably sped right through. I'm sorry, I talk really fast. But do you have any questions for me? Any comments?
Thank you so much, Caroline. That was great. Good feedback. So we are about 10 minutes away, actually. We're kind of in the transition time. If you pop over to the next slide, I believe that there's a couple of announcements. So the first is I wanted to highlight that we do have an elementary project submission challenge. So this is for teachers that are using CodeHS. We will send out these slides afterwards with these links, but it's a great opportunity for elementary teachers. Your classroom can win a pizza party from CodeHS if you submit some student projects and are selected. So definitely know there's a lot of great things that are already happening in your classroom. So this is just submitting some of those projects.